It's a long way to the top. If you want to rock and roll, you want to rock and roll? Riding on the highway, going to a show. Stopping on the byway, playing rock and roll. Getting round, getting stoned, getting beat up, getting boned, getting high, getting shook. I tell you folks, it's harder than it looks. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. It's easy to do one night stands. Try playing a rock and roll band. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll.
Good evening, race fans. I'm your host, Caden Reif, and welcome back to another installment of the 2007 season of the NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series. We're here from Michigan. It's race number 27 of 36, first of a weekend doubleheader here in Michigan, the Home Depot 400 to start here on a Saturday as we get you set for a double race weekend here today as we take you to the racetrack for your starting lineup here in today's event, first of two at the 2-mile D-shaped oval. Clint Boyer in the 4 car puts his number 4 Fastenal Chevrolet up front on pole position here today, with Kyle Busch in the 43 to his outside in the 2nd spot. Jimmy Johnson in the 48 will start in 3rd, and DJ Kennington, the points leader, had a rough race last week, blew up late. He starts 4th. 5th place is going to be Kurt Busch and Greg Biffle in the 6th position. 7th is going to be JJ Yaley, and 8th place, that'll be Jeff Gordon's number 24. 9th is going to be Ryan Newman, joined by his teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr. in row 5, rounding out the top 10. Carl Edwards starts in 11th, and Marcos Ambrose will be in the 12th spot. 13th, Scott Wimmer's number 23, and Tony Stewart will be in the 14th spot. Scott Riggs, last week's winner, first-time Cup Series winner, he's in the 15th position, and Brad Keselowski in the 16th spot. 17th goes to Casey Kane. Elliott Sadler will be in the 18th position. 19th is going to be Robbie Gordon, and Boris Said's number 60 rounds out the top 20. Jamie McMurray will be in 21st, and Ricky Hendrick in the 22nd position. TJ Bell, P23, with Kevin Harvick in 24th. 25th, that'll be Matt Kenseth, Todd Bodine in the 26th position, Bobby Labonte will be 27th, and Casey Mears 28th. Juan Pablo Montoya will be in the 29th position, Jeremy Mayfield in 30th, Martin Truex Jr. 31st, and John Andretti P32. Eric Norris will be in 33rd, with A.J. Allmendinger in 34th in the 07 car this week. Casey Atwood in 35th, and David Rudiman in the 36th position in the 06. Jeff Burton starts 37th, and Jack Sprague will be 38th place. 39th, that'll be Jason Leffler, Ron Hornaday Jr. in 40th, and rounding out the field in the back row, Todd Cleavers, number 98, and Ricky Craven in the 96, round out this 42-car field here today. 60 laps, first of 2 here at Michigan. We take you to the racetrack right away. For the most famous words in motorsports, it's the command here from the Home Depot 400.
Drivers, start your engines!
Field roars to life as we get set to go. 60 lapper here for Michigan. And of course, it's one of the most important races of this season up to this point. We start this final 10 showdown for the championship between DJ Kennington and Tony Stewart. And more importantly, this racetrack, one of the tracks that was of the subject of safety concerns this season. And of course, NASCAR responding to the incidents in the Busch Series race earlier in the year, bring a new package, worked with Goodyear, brought some new tires as well. And these race cars should be a lot slower here today, but it's going to be exciting to see exactly what kind of brand of racing we get from this racetrack with a new type of aero package coming in here today. Expecting the field to be a lot more spread out, a lot further apart racing, a lot less reliant on the draft here tonight.
For sure, but even with that, this track 2 miles long, the very, very fast racetrack, you're going to see a lot on a track like this. A lot of times the best cars come to the front no matter what. But again, track safety concerns made them slow the cars down a little bit, make them a little less aero dependent around this racetrack, but nonetheless should still see an exciting race today. This track never fails to deliver, so we'll see what we get once they take the green.
First of 2 in the makeup doubleheader here from Michigan on a Saturday as Clint Boyer leads the field here out of turn number 4. Kyle Busch in the 43 to his outside, championship crunch time. A lot of important storylines coming into today's race. And for Clint Boyer here today, his first career Cup Series pole. Into the restart box, green flag is in the air, and we are racing here for Michigan. It's the Home Depot 400 here on NASCAR and ESPN. Out of turn 4, there you saw Jimmy Johnson getting very aggressive on the initial start of this race, steals the lead on the opening lap. Boyer drops down to second from the pole. Yaley takes away third, side by side between him and Ryan Newman for that spot as everybody gets settled in, and we see the usual Michigan 3 wide deeper in the field, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. into the outside wall.
Early on, woes for Dale Earnhardt Jr. going to slip into the back of this field. But up front, it is clean and green as the field tries to jostle for their positions and get to where they need to be down to the bottom of the racetrack.
Get a look at the replay. Yeah, you saw both Edwards and Jr. kind of followed each other up into the outside wall. Don't think there was any help from the back bumper into Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car from Edwards behind, but Jr. ended up getting stuck in the wall, lost maybe 15, 20 positions on the initial start now as we see further 3 wide in the midfield. Jeff Gordon down on the bottom there in the 24. DJ Kennington, the points leader, trying to make up some positions and get back to running up front here in the 4th spot. Winner here at this racetrack last season. And right away, off to a great start here today in the top 5 early, trying to make a new move on Ryan Newman here for the 3rd position as Johnson and Boyer still 1st and 2nd up in front of him.
And recently, it's been a little bit quiet for the 4 of Boyer, but nobody denies his talent. Just maybe the team a little bit off from where they want to be. But Boyer has had no shortage of great runs throughout his career, just hasn't been able to close one out for a victory yet. But if you ask anybody in the garage area if you ask about the top 5 best prospects and hot shots in this garage area, almost everyone would name that 4 of Clint Boyer. That kid has a bright, bright future. If only he could start competing for wins more often than that Morgan McClure 4, because that team so respected throughout the garage as well. I think it would be welcome with everybody, as I think I saw the caution flag was out.
Caution flag waves for the first time here today. Looks like it was an incident in turn 3. Earnhardt Jr. is in it. Early race goes even further down the drain. Rudiman, Burton, and Andretti involved as well. As we are under our first caution tonight, get a look at the replay here with this incident here on the backstretch. And there you see the beginnings of it off of turn 2. Looked like it was 4 wide coming out of the corner. TJ Bell's number 26 got turned sideways with contact with Matt Kenseth, and it was Jeff Burton who went
Oh.
up and over as well as TJ Bell. 3 cars upside down. Todd Cleaver
Yeah,
on his
Rudy.
lid as well.
Yeah. My goodness, just a wild crash down the back straightaway. Everybody seems to be okay, but what a ride for 3 cars.
Yeah, it just looks like Atwood might have gotten a little wide there, 4 wide with Bell's number 26, and that sent him around, and everybody got popped up and over. And you see there it was Sprague, who couldn't check up for the wreck, got into that 98 of Cleaver, making just his 4th Cup Series start here today. He goes up for a wild ride. Been a rough start to his Cup campaign, and today no different. Everybody is okay and out of their cars, but a wild wreck early in the running. And the field going to bring it down pit road for early pit stops. Handful stay out. And the race leader, Jimmy Johnson, does remain on the racetrack. Lap number 6 here from Michigan as we take a look at the race off of pit road. Clint Boyer, P2 entering the pits, is going to leave first off of pit road. We'll take an intermission here from Michigan as Jimmy Johnson, number 48 car, in the early lead. We'll be right back. It's NASCAR on ESPN. Back from intermission here at Michigan as we get set to go green. Number 48, Jimmy Johnson, your race leader on the restart here. Led every lap early. Going to be lap number 9 on the restart for the 48. DJ Kennington restarts in the 2nd position. Greg Biffle, always a Michigan professional. He's in P3. Ryan Newman sits in the 4th spot. And Casey Kane's number 12 rounds out the top 5. As we get set to go green here, Johnson, having stolen the lead from Boyer early, moves into the 1st position, and now we get back to it here on the restart. See if this 48 can hold off everybody else. About half the field came down pit road there on that last caution. A lot of them did not take tires. So it's mostly just for fuel for those guys. Johnson leading the field into the restart box here from the Home Depot 400, waiting for the green flag, and we are back underway. Good start by 48, and even better start by the 81 of Kennington as we race towards turn number 1. And Kennington right away gonna look underneath of that 48, try and steal the lead on the restart. Johnson trying to hang tough on the outside. They leave turn 2. Johnson clears him on that outer line and retains the lead. Not without a challenge from Kennington off of the restart.
As we see Ryan Newman in the 38 making up ground. And for Ryan Newman, it has been a trying season, but it hasn't been without competition at the front. Newman has been so close so many times to grabbing that elusive win. in that Yates 38. But it really just seems like it's a matter of time at this point. He's been running so well, and if you continue to put yourself in position, eventually it'll come true.
Kennington making another move on Johnson up front, still unable to try and take away the lead as the 48 holds tight around that outside. Kane looking to go underneath of Ryan Newman here on that inside lane for the third position. Newman and Biffle tracking high here out of turn 4, but Kane is going to take away the third spot. Kennington once again, another run on Jimmy Johnson to try and take the lead once more. At the line, just had the nose ahead of the 48. And into turn 1, he is going to clear him, at least for the moment. And he does get that lead away. DJ Kennington out front now with Kane following him through into second place.
And Kane going to try to take a look for the lead himself. And that Penske Pontiac. And Kane, we've talked about it a few times throughout the season. The consistency hasn't really been there, but the race-winning pace, especially on the long runs, I'm not sure there's really been anybody better on the longest runs of the season than that 12 car of Casey Kane. So if this race were to go green, I think you got to favor that 12, especially with how fast he's been early in the run today.
Saw Johnson almost took it 4 wide for the second position down the front stretch. They definitely were 3 wide. Greg Biffle, one of his best racing facilities on the calendar, moves right up on into the second position past Kennington as the 48 looks underneath him to try and take back third. Couple new faces entering the picture up front. You see Robbie Gordon was a member of the top 5 for a lap or two there. Yaley up front. Kurt Busch, the 23 of Wimmer. Keselowski and others all making an appearance up front here as this pack starts to bunch up thanks to all this racing up front right now.
I would tell you, if I am any of these guys, I would not want to mess with the Michigan Maestro, Greg Biffle. He is so good at this racetrack, has multiple wins to boot here. And I don't think that there's anybody better at this racetrack than that 16 of Biffle. We see it every time he comes here. He just turns it up a notch. He knows his way around this place, and if he were to get the lead, I think it would be a problem for everybody else.
Running inside the top 5 right now, battling with that 01 of Kurt Busch for that position. Yaley's number 10. Talked over and over again about how many good runs this 10 car has had over the course of the year. And Yaley, at what many would consider an equipment track, running inside the top 5 right now.
Just so impressive what this kid has done this season with really no expectations to show for it. Yaley was really not super highly touted going into that 10 car, but has exceeded everything given to him. And seeing the 57 of Riggs win that race at Road Atlanta last weekend, PPC does have potential to win races. Clearly, I think if Yaley can find himself in the lead late in a race, he is perfectly capable of delivering PPC its second win of the season.
Kennington and Johnson now side by side for the lead after Kane was dethroned by that 48 car on the backstretch last time. Johnson once again making good work of that outside lane off of turn 2 to stay in front of Kennington for the moment. Side by side for third between aforementioned JJ Yaley and Kurt Busch, who has found his way up front, and Kennington really driving it in there to turn 3 to get up to Johnson and force him to give him the room on the bottom.
And we see it with Kennington on these big tracks. He is just so fast, and something that a lot of people expected him to struggle with coming into NASCAR, but that's proven to not be the case. Got his first win at Kansas. I believe he won a Michigan race last season. So these big ovals certainly not a problem for the points leader, the rookie, and potentially the title favorite.
That is for certain. It was amazing just how much success Kennington had on the intermediates last year in the Busch Series. Of course, had both of his Cup wins in 2006 came on intermediates. As you mentioned, Kansas and Michigan, both the races that he won last year. The second Michigan event was the race that he had taken his 81 to victory lane. But of course, so many wins in that Busch Series, and so many of them came on intermediates, had an average finish in the Busch Series at intermediate racetracks below 3 unprecedented for that 81 car of Kennington, who grew up racing on short tracks. A lot of guys in their stock car careers usually do grow up racing on short tracks, but for Kennington, especially racing north of the border, even the highest level of Canadian stock car racing does so much on those short tracks. But Kennington really turned it up a notch on intermediates last year, but there you see another pass for the lead as Kurt Busch really made quick work of that 81, and the 01 takes the lead for the first time in today's race.
And the 16 of Biffle going to follow Kurt Busch through for that second spot. Again, we talk about how good Biffle is at this racetrack as he draws nearer to the bumper of Kurt Busch. You don't want to see that guy get the lead because it's a sight all too familiar for these drivers. Once he gets it here, it's very, very hard to relinquish.
Biffle down on the bottom of the target Dodge, trying to steal away the lead here in Michigan, side by side up front. Kennington giving some draft help to that 16 to try and take away second for himself, as now Greg Biffle has his first lap of the race.
Kennington basically shoving Biffle down the front straightaway to try to take the lead himself. We'll see if Biffle can hang strong on the outside. Side by side down the back stretch, give it to Biffle off of turn 2. Biffle will have the run down into 3, but they'll be side by side for the lead.
Kennington with the advantageous line down on the bottom in 3 and 4, and this is the spot you want to make your move, and he managed to stay there out of turn 2. And once again, it's another lead change as Michigan continues to impress, and the 81 of DJ Kennington once again retakes the lead. Biffle drops down to second, trying to fend off Ryan Newman, who's taking a look for that second position. And he is going to have to show that nose and give him that bottom lane as Newman goes all the way down to the bottom. Kurt Busch all the way up top, no run there. Dead heat between the two Fords down the backstretch.
As we see Kennington lead this race, Tony Stewart, his title rival, starting to creep into the picture here. Have not talked about him today, but slowly and methodically moving his way through the field. Doesn't want to see that 81 get too far out in front. But these two have been inseparable this season. When one has a great run, the other has a great run. And when one falters, the other does as well. And when that happens, it really is just a weird mental game. Because when it's so hard to separate yourself, you think, man, what do I gotta do? And it could be just the slimmest of margins that separate these two at the end of the season.
Yeah, and it's been his most impressive season for Stewart, that is, in his Ganassi garage yet. Over this course of this year, keeping up with DJ Kennington, who everyone has touted as that wonder kid, and has just managed to fight and claw his way and remain within that 100-point margin to that 81 for the points lead. And now, as he ducks underneath of Greg Biffle for the second position going into turn 1, trying to find a way to get up and steal the lead from his championship rival. And it's impressive to think, really, for Tony Stewart and that 42 team, the fact that you go over the course of this season, and for Stewart, already a two-time Cup champion in his career, to be considered by many to be the underdog of this championship fight. Kennington has just looked so strong, but over the course of this year, Stewart has proven why he's got those 2 Cup championships. He's been so consistent, only has a win or so to his name over the course of this year, but has just fought his way up to good finishes, top 5s, top 10s, and once again proving exactly why that's the case right now as he duels with Kennington for that race lead, and out of turn 2, he's stolen it from the 81 car.
And something to consider for Tony Stewart, something very advantageous that he has in his pocketbook. He raced for Joe Gibbs Racing, and he knows exactly how they operate and how they like to run their cars. Tony Stewart can keep that in the back of his mind, and that is extremely, extremely helpful when you have knowledge of the cars that Kennington is basically driving now.
Yeah, absolutely. For Stewart, in that 42 car, was the driver of the 20 before this and won 2 Cup championships with them at the second as recent as 2005, just 2 years ago. So Stewart, of course, knows that team pretty well inside and out, and there is a reason that he's been able to hang with them and play their game but looking like here through turns 3 and 4, thought Kennington might hit there, but looking like that's not going to be the case. Stewart just kind of pushing tight in the wake of that 81 while fighting with Newman for the second position. Kennington continuing to lead laps as they are 4 wide almost for the second position going into turn 1. Biffle thought better of it and backed out to follow that 38. Jimmy Johnson goes right on through the middle, bests the both of them into the second position as Stewart ends up on the back foot again.
To me, it seems like this 81 and 48 have the best cars today. We've seen them at the front more than anybody. As Johnson, oh my goodness, very nearly runs into the back of DJ Kennington as we start to see pitters. It's like Newman, Biffle, Robbie Gordon, Kevin Harvick in the field start to come in.
Seemed like it was a really tight margin there, especially for the 31 of Robbie Gordon, who was pitting from almost the very top of the racetrack, held a lot of the field up. So the top 4 have now broken away as a result. That involves J.J. Yaley, Stewart, Johnson, and Kennington out front as we approach the halfway mark in this race. And you have to imagine some of those cars that came in under the last yellow flag, got an extra tick of fuel or so after about 6 laps of green flag action, are going to stay out a little longer here. Looking like Johnson will remain on the racetrack an extra time while Kennington comes in, although Johnson is one of those cars that ended up pitting, or excuse me, not pitting under that yellow flag, so he stays out to take the lead. Would imagine he comes in this next time.
Yeah, and in a racetrack like this, where the draft is so important, you really can't stay out that long, because if you lose the draft, you lose your track position. So you want to come in as close to the number as possible. I think those guys that came in first may have got it right, and you really don't want to play the long game here. I think you expect to see Johnson come in this time, and potentially Stewart as well.
Looking like the 42 will stay out. Not sure if Stewart was actually one of the cars on pit road under that last yellow flag. It would be worth checking that fact to see if he ends up deciding to stay out long. And he was, so Stewart has a lot of extra fuel, looking like he's going to remain on the racetrack here. Got a very wide lead at the moment. Second place now belongs to the 55 of Casey Mears, as you see a big group of cars who also came down pit road with that 42, but Stewart was way in front of the rest of them.
Yeah, and for Stewart, kind of taking a page out of Robbie Gordon's book last season, you know, you're never gonna best the 81 if you're behind him by doing the same thing he is. See, we'll see how the long pit works out for him, but so far, with such a big lead, it shouldn't be too hurtful, you wouldn't think.
Not to mention the fact that for this 42 car, of course, you're going to have the better tires on the longer run. That was another one of the big things Goodyear emphasized in this race, is that their tires were going to wear out quite a lot at this racetrack. You're seeing that, draft help or not. He's down 2 seconds on his best time, and the rest of the guys who are even in the draft are around that mark. So you expect Stewart to come in about 2-3 laps from now. Of course, it was about 5 laps completed under green before that first yellow flag came out. So, and actually a lot of dust here on the front stretch, so looking like an incident potentially. And it was the 96 of Ricky Craven who appears to have been blowing up. That is going to bring out a caution flag.
My goodness, and an inopportune time for a lot of guys that just came in and got lapped right at the halfway mark of this race. We'll see what this holds for strategy in the future, but it appears to be a good break here for Tony Stewart.
Gonna have to have enough fuel to limp it around here. You saw a couple of drivers who were members of the group who stayed out long that ended up hitting there that last time by right before the caution flag came out. So yeah, that was the 96 of Ricky Craven who just lost an engine to bring out the second yellow of the race right at the halfway mark for Tony Stewart, the race leader, as he's going to catch up to the pacing queue here. You're going to see probably everybody get back on the lead lap here, of course, with such a big racetrack. These guys only a lap down and would imagine they stay out here. If they don't, going to be interesting to see just how few cars are on the lead lap if that ends up being the case. But for Stewart, going to bring it to pit road here under this yellow flag, and even if he ends up pitting a second time, DJ Kennington's 81 is the lucky dog. but you are going to see pit stops here. As Stuart Mears and Jeff Gordon, the current top 3, are going to pit in. Looking like Elliott Sadler is going to stay out for an extra lap of fuel, try and play a bit of fuel mileage game here in this race. But Stuart leads the field on in. Only a handful of cars that even made it that long on gas, looking like about 6 or 7 that made it that far. Stuart, Jeff Gordon. In to the left here comes the race leader, Tony Stewart, as he brings it in. Edwards and Gordon in for fuel and tires as well. Tony Stewart off the jack and away. Racing pretty tight here with Mears and Jeff Gordon, and he is going to win the race off of pit road. Mears will come out in second, Gordon in third. But take a look and see if these drivers who were tail end of the lead lap decide to come in here, and if they do, there is not going to be a lot of cars on the lead lap here, and of course, Elliott Sadler going to have to come in here as well, you would imagine. Only car that stayed out at extra time, once again imagining that he wants to just get some extra fuel, and what harm is there in it? There's only about 8 cars on the lead lap currently, so Sadler not going to lose too many positions by making this move. Have seen this move made by a couple of crew chiefs over the course of the year, and it is looking like everybody is going to come down pit road, except for maybe a couple. Clint Boyer's number 4 is going to stay on the racetrack, as is the rest of the guys who just came into the pits, of course. So yeah, looking like it's only going to be about 10 cars on the lead lap as a whole here.
Man,
unless a couple of them beat Elliott Sadler out.
Talk about a caution that flips the script of this race upside down. 10 cars on the lead lap absolutely turns this race on its head if that ends up being the case here. But we'll see where Sadler comes out, because that'll be the deciding factor.
And of course, even then, the lead lap cars are going to end up in front of this group regardless. Kennington, the 81, is probably going to be the only one that gets unlapped here, as he is going to be the lucky dog. But yeah, about 10 cars on the lead lap, and about half or more of the cars who were in contention to win this race just got trapped a lap down. Ryan Newman wins the race off of pit road. Not going to matter, of course. Kennington's still the lucky dog. 8 cars, actually going to be 9. And then 10 with the lucky dog of Kennington, still on the lead lap. This race just got flipped on its head. And we will be right back. Intermission here at Michigan. It's the Home Depot 400 here on NASCAR and ESPN. back from intermission here at Michigan as we get set to go green. It will be exactly 10 cars on the lead lap and only 7 of them at the front of the field. Back to Hornaday Jr. as almost the entire field trapped a lap down here thanks to that mid-pit cycle caution. Tony Stewart in the 42 takes away the race lead. Casey Mears will be in the second position in the 55. Jeff Gordon in third, Allmendinger fourth, Carl Edwards in fifth, and some drivers who lucked out, Eric Norris and Ron Hornaday Jr. also still on the lead lap, 6th and 7th.
Yeah. Well, Hendrick lost Jimmy Johnson up at the front of this field, who was their fastest car, but they've gained Mears and Gordon, but they're going to have to pass Stewart, a very hungry Stewart, who sees an opportunity here to potentially put a gap between him and Kennington.
Kennington, one of the cars back on the lead lap. The 4 and the 81 got waved around with the 4 car in front of the lead lap cars, and Kennington, the lucky dog. Sadler still on the lead lap, a ways back as well. Side by side for the second position in turns 1 and 2. Jeff Gordon took a try on his teammate Mears there, see if he sticks with it down the backstretch. Mears is going to clear him down the back as Edwards putting pressure on that 24 as we are right back up to speed. The big thing I think you're going to see quite a lot of here is some of these lap cars who were in contention for the win, racing for their lap back in case of another caution flag. Of course, that 38 of Ryan Newman is back there. Harvick is in that mix. Labonte, Kurt Busch, Kenseth, Johnson, Robbie Gordon, all cars with a lot of speed who are still racing for pretty good finishing positions. Of course, they're fighting for the top spots in the top 15. Exactly 10 cars still on the lead lap, so unless we have a yellow flag, looking like pretty much the top 10 is guaranteed for all of the cars still on the lead lap, barring nothing goes wrong for them. But Stewart's starting to pull away a little bit up front. Mears, Gordon, and Edwards still fighting all for this second position right now. 25 laps to go is the count. And the 4 of Boyer, actually, we talked about how he got waved around, came down for another pit stop here and is going to leave pit road, and he will also fall a lap down. So now just 9 cars on the lead lap. Stewart trying to control this field right now. Really the only member of this top 5 who was up towards the very front of the field. Jeff Gordon was in the mix up front just a little bit, and these guys do have a fair amount of speed. They were up front of the drivers who stayed out long on that last green flag run and caught that lucky break. But Mears in that 55 car, who has had a pretty impressive rookie season up to this point, although it's been a very, very unlucky stretch for him. The last 4 has DNF'd 4 consecutive races and finished 38th or lower in all of them. So Mears looking for a bit of a rejuvenation of his season right now and is having a great run here. Was already towards the front of the field before that yellow flag came out, but right now chasing the juggernaut Stewart for the lead and potentially the win.
And it is worth noting for Casey Mears, it was announced that he will be moving to the Roush 99 next season. So maybe this is a very good opportunity for Casey to stick it to Rick and say, hey, maybe you should have kept me in this 55. But Jack Roush definitely got a great driver in that young man. Casey Mears has been very, very impressive this season.
Fighting with teammate Jeff Gordon for the second position, still that 24, trying to find his way back up front here. Allmendinger in the 07, another impressive run, past Edwards on speed the last couple laps. Actually ran his fastest lap of the race last time through, as did quite a few people up front, but a 39.128. But Allmendinger, of course, in the Red Bull pipeline, running with the Alliance 07 McGlynn team for the majority of this year. He has been in that car since the unfortunate injury to team owner Ryan McGlynn. Allmendinger looking like he's not going to be going cup racing next year, at least not in a full-time capacity, but it's been an impressive show-me-what-you-got campaign for this 07 here. Allmendinger and Reagan have split time in that car, and both have been fairly impressive, but Allmendinger especially has had a couple of really solid runs. We know this kid's great on road courses, came over from open wheel racing, but having himself a great run here today, and regardless of the circumstances, it's impressive to run up front like this with Edwards, Mears, Gordon, Stewart, all these guys who are known win contenders, and showing your pace up front. But we've got some lap cars who are starting to contend to try and fight for their lap back as Harvick and Labonte, pair of Gibbs cars, starting to creep their way towards the front runners.
Gordon's starting to slightly close in on Tony Stewart for the lead, but it's just so hard when you don't have that help behind you to try to propel you forward. It'd be a good idea for this 55 and 24 to try to link up here, give this 24 a push up to the 42. But nothing doing right now as Tony Stewart controls this race. Side by side for the third position. Carl Edwards going to get that spot over Mears as Mears starts a free fall on that top lane. Kevin Harvick looks to be very, very quick lap car at the moment. We're going to try to fight for his lap back as he's going to look underneath his teammate Edwards.
Not too much fight there for the number 19. Imagine that's a little bit of teamwork.
Yeah, you'd have to imagine so. But Gordon continuing to close in just a little bit on Stewart. Not close enough to do anything with him at the moment. But would be interesting to see these two start to get in a battle and pull everybody back up to them. But this is a great opportunity today for Tony Stewart to try to reel that 81 back in points.
And of course, it is only a little bit. As we mentioned, Kennington got that lucky dog. He's in the 9th spot right now, but he's got a long, long way to go before he gets any cars for position. First car is Sadler, who has really gone nowhere. But after that, it's about 20 lap cars up to 6th place Ron Hornaday Jr., who could potentially also fall back there as well. Doesn't have a whole lot of speed in that race car, but not too terribly far off. And of course, 7th is also Eric Norris in the 51, who has started to drop off of the race leaders. But you're seeing these guys get real racy right now. Harvick stuck up on the outside. His teammate Labonte passes him for what is the lucky dog position right now. Allmendinger and Mears side by side for 3rd. And Jeff Gordon's 24 has gotten up to the back bumper of Tony Stewart. And now we might see a battle between these two for what could be the race win here.
And I would just like to note, we haven't talked about him a ton on broadcast this season, but what a season it's been for Jeff Gordon. Quietly, maybe hasn't had the car that he's had in previous seasons, but still has had a phenomenal season, as is customary for Jeff Gordon, known legend of this sport. Always good to see that flame car running up front. Jeff, everybody knows how good he is in the garage, and I think if you give him the championship level car, he can compete right up there with the best of them, no doubt in my mind.
Absolutely, and for Gordon over the course of this season has that one win back at Rockingham. That was a long time ago to his name this year. Has contended for a couple, but it's been a solid, quiet season. As you mentioned, he's been real quiet this year as he goes to the bottom for the lead, coming to 15 to go. For Gordon, 3rd in the championship, that's a position where you would think in any given season, isn't he contending for the championship? That would be incorrect. Of course, as we mentioned, Stewart and Kennington have been the class of the field all year long, and Gordon, despite being 3rd in the championship, is 380 points out of contention up front. And it's going to be tough if he wants to mount that gap up to the leaders, but I sincerely doubt that would happen at this point in the season. But having a good run here today, and of course they're in the championship, regardless of the context, is still really nothing to scoff at, and having himself a great season over the course of this year. Stewart held him off in the battle for the lead, remains P1, Bobby Labonte's number 18, current lucky dog position car, and Jimmy Johnson in the 48, who has also contended today, contending up front to maybe potentially race for their lap back in case of a late race yellow. Would imagine there's also still one more pit stop left in this race, which is going to be important for these guys up front to hit, and even more so considering how few of them there are in contention for this win. But these top two have really rifled away from everybody, and 3rd place Mears is quite a long way back and still dealing with the swarm of lappers. You see the 18 of Labonte trying to get around this 24, get first dibs at catching up to Stewart and getting in front of him, though Jimmy Johnson is going to get real aggressive, goes to the bottom of 3 wide. Running out of laps in this race as we continue to close in on 10 to go for Tony Stewart in the 42. Still comfortably out front of this race. Got close there with Jeff Gordon, but managed to stay in front of him. And thanks to the lappers, racing that 24 is now up front. Update on DJ Kennington, still in the 9th position right now. Hasn't been able to close in on the 83, who has started to run away just a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, never mind. Excuse me. That 83 was caught up in this pack with Kennington. Hard to make him out there, but Kennington does make up a position now. Moves into 8th. Could be 7th, maybe even 6th if he gets past the 51 and potentially the 1 car, but running out of laps as we approach 10 to go.
And you know this has to be frustrating for Gordon. You get past that 42 of Stewart, and then the lap cars bear you down. One of them a teammate, and pass you and erase all of that ground that you just made up. But the good news is for Gordon, these lap cars are catching Stewart as well and may race him. So we'll see if that mitigates the damage for these guys. But Johnson and Labonte clearly feel that they have cars capable enough to win the race, and they want to have their laps back in case a caution comes out. And you can't really fault them for doing it.
Johnson and Labonte running up front, approaching that 10 to go mark as the 48, who led a lot of this race early, is looking to try and get his lap back on Stewart, running him down up front. Kurt Busch's number 01 has also entered the picture in the 12th position, -1. Edwards is clear of the traffic behind him right now, moved back into that 3rd position to 19. And once again, we've talked about Edwards a lot. Had a bit of an unlucky stretch over the last maybe 10 or so races in that 19 car, but it has really been a good season for Edwards. Doesn't have a win to show for it. And of course, all the way down in the 20th position in points, thanks to all that rough luck, but has had quite a few standout good runs and has proven why Joe Gibbs tapped him to run that 19 car.
Yeah, no doubt. And Edwards is another one of those guys that has been quietly really good this season. He's contended for a couple wins, but he's never really been the fastest car in any given race this season. So you don't really hear a whole lot about him, but he is always sitting in that top 10, just solidly performing exactly how he should, if not a little overperforming what that 19 is capable of doing. And my goodness, for Gordon, just continuing to get held up here. Tony Stewart is gone out the front windshield, and you know that has to be frustrating for Jeff, watching your competition for the win get smaller and smaller in your windshield.
Absolutely, as Stewart continues to lead. We're inside 10 to go. Now it's 9 laps left for the 42 of Stewart, who's trying to bring this thing home. Wondering when that final pit stop is going to happen, if it does at all, as we are closing in on the very end of this race. And if it does, how important is it going to be for these guys to nail it? But again, fuel window is a big question coming into this race with all the new packaging, how the cars are going to behave. So not sure if we're going to get that final pit stop, but you have to imagine with how long this run is, that they would probably come down pit road eventually.
Yeah, you would have to imagine. But Gordon trying to get past his teammate here. He will do so. But if he wants to get to Tony Stewart, he's got to get this pass done on Bobby Labonte like right now.
Feel as if that was an overtake of spite by the 24 there. Absolutely drove it under his teammate in 1 and 2. The spot where the top side has worked a lot better on the racetrack and flew past him. So Gordon really starting to get impatient with these guys, but Johnson refuses to go way out of his mirror, and Labonte no different up in front of him. But the 18 starting to close back in on the 42 after having dropped off of him for a couple of laps. But running out of time in this race is Jeff Gordon's 24. And Stewart trying to nurse this thing home late.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a certain finger out the window of that 24 car as he roared by. But Gordon's starting to reel these guys back in. He might have a chance, but he's likely going to need Bobby Labonte to get underneath Stewart here, which he might.
And he did. Here comes the 18 trying to unlap himself on the bottom. If you're Stewart, this has got to be the most infuriating thing you can experience. But you got to think Gordon's loving it after being held up by these two for so long. So we are going to see a duel for the win late here. 6 laps to go. Labonte on the bottom of Tony Stewart. And here comes the 24 of Jeff Gordon.
Yes, he's going to roll right to that back bumper of Stewart. Going to go to the bottom. We'll see if he can push Labonte past. Might be able to use him as a pick to get the lead here, but he has to get onto the brakes. Tony Stewart holds on the top side at the moment.
Labonte really seemed
Gordon.
like he underdrove there in turn 3. But Jeff Gordon on the bottom of 3 wide with 5 laps to go, trying to steal away the lead.
Yeah, Gordon's tired of waiting behind these guys. They're 3 wide down into turn 1. Give it to Jeff Gordon down into turn 2. As Stewart's going to fight back on the top lane. Nothing going. Jeff Gordon to the lead.
Got them both. What a move by the 24 down the front stretch. Bobby Labonte with a chance to get underneath of Gordon and continue fighting for this lap, and he does get underneath of the 24. Still side by side up front as Stewart might have a chance to challenge back as we leave turn 4. Still side by side Stewart. I think he's just tired of Labonte, and he's going to push the 24 past so he can go to the inside for the lead.
And I can't blame him if he is tired of that 18. Who has been racing these leaders so hard. Gordon absolutely drives it in on the top lane. Gonna get down in front of Stewart. Jeff Gordon commands the race lead with 3.5 laps to go.
Couple of cars hit pit road. DJ Kennington is one of them. We might see fuel mileage on top of everything.
We'll see. As it looks like these guys down to the bottom lane, they're not...
Neither of them are going to make it.
They're pitting. Let's see.
Edwards stays out. The 19 is going to take the lead.
Will anybody have enough fuel to make it the distance? My goodness, what a topsy-turvy turn of events here at the end of this race. Ron Hornaday Jr. in third. But Carl Edwards leading this race. We'll see if he has enough fuel to make it the distance. I expect to see him in here.
3 laps is a
Kennington
long way to make at this racetrack. Edwards into turn 3. Question will be if he comes in, and he will. 19 is going to hit pit road here, looking like Allmendinger will do the same. Does anybody else stay out that's on the lead lap? Hornaday doesn't. Doesn't look like the 51 is going to either. Everybody hitting pit road late. Meanwhile, the race off of pit road, Jeff Gordon is in front of the 42 car.
And by enough of a margin to where I don't think Stewart's going to be close enough. We'll see. That's a pretty good gap for Jeff Gordon there if that does end up being for the win. Stewart not completely out of his sights.
Worth taking note that the 19 car had a shorter pit stop, didn't have to put as much fuel in by going longer. 24 back on the racetrack and up to speed. Edwards in a big train here, leaving the pits. Doesn't look like it's going to matter. Gordon and Stewart fly on past him.
And it's going to be between these two for the race win. Stewart close enough to maybe send a challenge on the white flag, but Jeff Gordon out in front.
Actually, tell you what, Elliott Sadler's number 83 is on the last lap. Sadler did not pit. Down the backstretch, he's got a half a lap to go, and Sadler's looking like he's going to steal this thing.
Elliott Sadler has not won a race since 2001 at Bristol, but could the magic happen today? Out of turn 4 in the Irish Hills, Elliott Sadler stretches the fuel. In an unbelievable turn of events, Red Bull has stolen the victory in broad daylight here at Michigan.
Sadler, the only car to make it on fuel, and the 83, Elliott Sadler, first time to victory lane since Bristol of 2001. And the battle for the win between Stewart and Gordon is not going to matter, as these two are going to come home second and third. I cannot believe it. Stewart rounds the final corner. He's going to finish in third. As we wait for DJ Kennington, the points leader, looking like it's going to be 7th place for Kennington's number 81. Wow! Elliott Sadler steals it.
7 years in the making for Elliott Sadler, who's been so close on so many occasions. I can't think he would have dreamed of it ending this way. What a call by Red Bull Racing to keep him on the racetrack, and what a job to save just enough fuel to make it on fumes. Unbelievable ending here in Michigan. This track never disappoints.
Absolutely unreal, as it's Elliott Sadler in the 83 who comes home to win it. as we mentioned, he'd been close quite a few times over the course of his tenure with this 83 team. Did not imagine it would be like this. I didn't think that anybody had stayed out to make it to the end there, but Sadler did, and the 83 stretches the field, the only car to manage it, and he wins it. Unbelievable turn of events.
After all the bad luck that's gone Elliott Sadler's way, I think he channeled all of it to get that luck at the end of that race. My goodness.
That will do it for coverage here from Michigan. Elliott Sadler, the 83, your winner here today after an unbelievable turn of events, as he is going to take home the trophy in Michigan. We got one more Michigan race coming on later. That'll be on Sunday, as it'll be round number 2 at this racetrack, and maybe a little bit more of a tame race next time. Elliott Sadler stays out, and he has enough fuel to make it to the end, your winner here today. But on behalf of Nate joining me in the booth here tonight, I've been your host, Caden Reif. It's been a pleasure to have you along, as always. We'll see you next time, and have yourself a good one.
It's a long way to the top.